Dear students, we now start on lecture 2, but we will call it chapter 2. It's not really lecture 2 because, in a sense, this cannot be the second lecture. What we had done so long cannot be completed in one lecture, and whatever I am doing cannot be completed in one lecture of 50 minutes. So, you can see the title here. It's called Derivatives, Optimization, and Convexity. Three pillars of economics. Derivatives are related to what are called marginal changes, whether it's in utility or cost. The word marginal is immediately linked to derivatives. Optimization is a central idea in economics because economics at the end it deals with the effective utilization of scarce resources. What is the best way to utilize your scarce resource, and hence decide your policy on that. That's what economics is all about. And convexity is a pillar on which optimization stands, and hence, in many ways, which economics stands. So, these are the three very fundamental things which an economist should learn as one progresses towards his own research work. This chapter would also be helpful to students who would like to have a flavor of the link between analysis and optimization. Because in standard courses of operations research that we see in India, nowhere this deep link between analysis and optimization is clarified. It is usually thought as some kind of a methodology being given to you which has come out from the heads of some great people from the air, and it has really got nothing to do with mathematics. You just do some calculations and get some answer which you apply in reality, and the reality is working fine. But that's not true. Please understand that optimization is essential an outgrowth of analysis, and we I as an optimizer would have to accept that optimization is essentially a very key part of theoretical applied analysis. Now, to start with derivatives, you can understand that we are already talking in higher dimensions. You might think that I'll talk about being in higher dimensions immediately. But let us first start with derivatives in R, and means real line derivatives of functions from R to R. So let us recall things about them and how they are linked to the problem of optimization. Convexity will be done in a separate way at the last section of the lecture, but not this lecture, obviously, in several lectures. But let us first start with something you already know from your high school days, which you have repeatedly, you memorize the formula, you apply it, and you compute stuff. But there are many other structural things about the derivative, which gives you new insight as to what it is. And as a result of which, we will start with the standard definition. If you have a function from R to R, but in school you learn from open interval AB to R, you don't even question why it's open interval and not closed interval. But we will take you off that and we'll just put you on this function from R to R. And then you take any point in x star, and we said that f has a derivative at x star if the following limit exists. Now, this notion of a derivative has a very physical beginning because this rate of change was first brought into the picture to define what is called velocity of an object. So, as Lord Kelvin, on whose name the Kelvin scale of temperature is named, he was once teaching calculus in Cambridge, and students were telling that okay, we don't much understand what is derivative. And he said that derivative is nothing but the velocity. It is the measure of the instantaneous rate of change. So if f was the distance function and x was the time, so this was telling if a particle was at f of x at time x, and when a little more time has passed, that is x plus h, it is at time of x plus f of x plus h, in this very small interval of x to x plus h, what is the average velocity of the car or particle, whatever you want to say, train, whatever. And then as you keep on shortening that time interval, you see where does this sequence of average velocity, you already know what's the sequence of average velocity is 10 to. So when h goes towards 0, we then can talk now about a velocity at the point. But this velocity at the point, velocity at a given point, is essentially a limiting concept. And f dash x star represents that limiting concept, that the velocity of the point is a limiting concept. It tells you instantaneously at a given point at a given time what is at the velocity, how fast is an object moving at a given point of time and at a given place. So this idea of instantaneous velocity, it looks very idealistic, you cannot really think about it so easily, has led to has allowed us to make a very deeper understanding of motions about bodies around us, which was central to the development of science, the science of mechanics. So this notion of derivative f dash x star as the limit of this change of the function value divided by the change in the independent variable x, this ratio of the change and the limit when the change in the variable x goes towards 0 is what is called f dash x star, the derivative. And you have calculated derivative of x square is 2x, derivative of x square is 3x cube, derivative of log x is 1 by x, and there are so many formulas to do it, but you can just apply this. So you will understand calculus very well as Benoit Mandelbrot, the great mathematician who invented the notion of fractals, the great French mathematician rather. He said that you would calculus much better if you know at the very outset that every continuous function need not have a derivative. Like fx is the absolute value of x, does not have a derivative at 0, while every differentiable function is definitely continuous. So this is something you already know, but now I'll look at this definition in a slightly different way. What I'll do, I'll take this f dash x star to the right hand side, because this, and put it inside the limit frame of the limit, because this is independent of h, so it doesn't matter whether you bring it within the limit or you don't bring it within the limit, it will remain constant. So once you do that little jugglery, that you bring f dash x to this side, so it will become limit of f of x plus h minus fx minus f dash x, the whole thing in the bracket, f dash x star. So here it will be x star, I'm sorry, I missed the x star here, please forgive me for that. It will be f of x star plus h minus f of x star by h. So once you do that, here you see the next slide, it is correct. So once you do that, what you have, so basically you write f of x star plus h minus f of x star by h minus f dash of x star, then you do a little bit of calculation and you find this thing happening. What does this tell you? There is a fractional thing, both depending on h, but the limit goes towards 0, but h is going towards 0, h is blowing up, so this 1 by h is blowing up, but still the whole thing goes to 0. What does it mean? It means that this numerator must be vanishing much faster, that it is going towards 0 much faster. Before 1 by h can grow larger, so to overtake the decrease of f dash x star plus h minus f dash x star minus f dash x star h, this upper part, the upper part becomes so small that 1 by h cannot grow to just blow up the whole thing. So this thing means, which comes out naturally from the definition of the derivative, that this upper part, the numerator, vanishes or goes towards 0 much faster than h. And we say that the numerator is thus of a small o of h and is denoted like this. So small o of h is a technical term. You need to get habituated with this. So what does it mean? That a small o of h is a quantity such that whenever I divide small o of h by h and take the limit as h goes to 0, that would give me 0. Small o of h is a quantity which will go to 0 faster than h. That's the idea, as h goes to 0. So now if I write this just the upper part as small o of h, then I can write this expression f of x star h now can be written like this, which means the derivative can equivalently be thought as a real number such that if I move away a little from x star, the functional value of f of x star plus h can be calculated as f of x star plus f dash x star h plus a small error. So when the error is very small, if I can forget it, then I can say that just by using this part f of x star plus f dash x star h, which is sometimes called linear approximation of f at x star, using this part only, I can have a very good approximation of the value of f at x star plus h. So when you draw, when you take a curve, take the curve y equal to x square. Now take a magnifying glass and go near, mark a point and go near and near and near and near and near it. So I'm going to make it smaller and make it smaller. So you just look at the function in x plus delta and x minus delta and make the delta smaller and smaller and put the magnifying glass. You will see the curve would almost appear like a straight line. So if you just throw away the o of h, this part y equal to mx, this is m, this is x plus c. So a function can be very well approximated by a straight line when I am just very near the point where I am approximating, that is x star. So this can be also viewed as the definition of the derivative. My emphasis on talking about the derivative to this extent is to tell you that this way of writing the derivative will actually carry us towards the definition of derivative in higher dimension. Now, when you are in high school, when I was also in high school, I was told that okay, today we are going to find maximizers and minimizers. What you have to do, you have to compute f dash x equal to 0, that is solve this equation, take the derivative and find the x which makes it 0. Once you have found the x, keep it on the side, take the second derivative of the function and put the value of x that you had found for which f dash x equal to 0 and see whether at that point the derivative is strictly bigger than 0 or strictly less than 0. If it is strictly bigger than 0, you say x is a minimizer, strictly less than 0, you say x is a maximizer and nothing else. This emphasis is also not led on more deeply when we speak about these things in first year calculus courses. See, the idea is that there is a structural issue here, about the whole nature of maximizers and minimizers. There can be functions where we can have what is called local minimizers or maximizers, but may not have what is called global maximizers and minimizers. I will not put examples of that. I will rather ask you to figure out an example. For example, if I take the function say fx equal to x square, right? So if I take fx equal to x square and x is greater than equal to 0, right? After that we take fx is equal to minus x till minus 1, and from there you just drop the slope of, you make a tent type thing and just drop it down. So drop it down as a straight line. So you will have a local minimizer at 0 but not a global minimizer at 0. The global minimizer doesn't exist. So we have to get accustomed to this notion of a local minimizer. So what is a local minimizer? So on a straight line, on the real line, the local minimizer is a point x star such that you can always find a delta such that within the delta neighborhood of x star, f of x is always bigger than f of x star. So local maximizer is simply different. You have to put the opposite inequality. F of x star would be bigger than fx for all x in some delta neighborhood of x star. So what happens is that you can show, which I will not here because this is standard high school stuff or first year calculus stuff, that whenever f has a local minimizer at x star, it must satisfy the condition f dash x star equal to 0. So this is a necessary condition. It doesn't tell you that okay, if f dash x star equal to 0, then x star is a local minimizer. Then what life would have been, life wouldn't have been much better than that. But that is not the case. It tells you that okay, if you give me a local minimizer, I will tell you that this is what this point needs to satisfy. So what does it mean? So the statement P has implied the statement Q. Now if I want to go back, I want to now go back. So if P implies Q, the negation of Q implies negation of P. So if x star is a local minimizer, f dash x star is equal to 0. So if f dash x star is not equal to 0, then x star is not a local minimizer. So f dash x star equal to 0, if I just have a point f dash x star equal to 0, I cannot say, if I find a x star such that f dash x star equal to 0, I cannot say whether it is a local minimizer or local maximizer, because the local maximizer will also necessarily satisfy f dash x star equal to 0. I cannot say anything. The only thing I can say, if f dash x star is not equal to 0, I can say it is not a local maximizer or minimizer. That I can say with certainty. But I cannot say if f dash x star is equal to 0, I cannot say whether x star is a local maximizer or local minimizer. I cannot say anything. So that is why that condition is just called a necessary condition. This condition has to be satisfied by the local minimizer or local maximizer. If a point does not satisfy this condition, it cannot be a local minimizer or a local maximizer. So in order to find a local maximizer or minimizer, you have to first find a point which satisfies that condition f dash x star equal to 0, because you know now that if f dash x star is not equal to 0, then x star cannot be a local maximizer or minimizer. So that is why you have to necessarily first compute f dash x star equal to 0. You have to find a point first which satisfies f dash x star equal to 0. Then only you can check whether it is a local minimizer or local maximizer. This is something you have to get very clear, that f dash x star equal to 0 is a necessary condition, because if an x star doesn't satisfy that condition, it is not a local maximizer or minimizer. So I can repeat. So in order to know check whether a point x star is really a local maximizer or minimizer, you really have to first find out whether f dash x star equal to is equal to 0. If it is equal to 0, then it becomes a candidate. Then you have to have additional conditions to really make a check by the structure of the problem or in some other way. But if the function is twice differentiable, there is a good way of checking it, which we are taught, that okay, as I also told you, that if x star is a critical point, then if x star is strictly greater than 0, then x star is a local minimizer, and if it is strictly less than 0 at x star, it is a it's a local maximizer. But there is something more to this story, and we will start this motivation using the quadratic function in our next lecture. So please understand, the key thing that you learn from this slide is that when f dash x star is not equal to 0, x star cannot be a local maximizer or minimizer. So the only thing that you should first do to find a local maximizer or minimizer is to find a point where f dash x star is equal to 0. If there are no such points, if it is not solvable, then there is no local maximizer or minimizer for this problem. There are many increasing functions where would not happen. It wouldn't have any maximizer or minimizer. It would keep on increasing, and as x becomes bigger than 0 and keep on decreasing, x goes to be less than equal to 0. Right? So, for example, if x equal to x a cube, now f dash 0 is 0 here. So what is 0? Is it a maximizer or minimizer? No. But f dash 1 for fx equal to x a cube is 3. So it is definitely not a maximizer or local maximizer or minimizer. So the key takeaway is to understand that f dash x star, again I am repeating, not equal to 0. अगर वो 0 नहीं है f dash x star, then x star local maximizer or minimizer नहीं हो सकता. It cannot be a local maximizer or minimizer. This is the first thing that you should learn. So what we have done, students get very confused when you say that, okay, if f dash x star is a necessary condition, you have to really compute, you have to really find out x for which f dash x star equal to 0, then only you can do something. But the important thing to tell the students is the fact that if x is the local minimizer, we have proved that f dash x star equal to 0, which means that if f dash x star is not equal to 0, x star cannot be a local minimizer or maximizer. So if I want to find out a local maximizer or minimizer, we have to first know whether it satisfied f dash x star equal to 0, and that is why you have to do that computation. Because as I repeat again, if it doesn't satisfy, it cannot be a local maximizer or minimizer. So I hope I have stressed this very important point, and in the next lecture we will start with the idea of the motivating the idea of why second order conditions are needed if the function is twice differentiable, using the notion of a quadratic function. So thank you once again. Thank you very much.